Join me as I bring arsenic and old lace to the table. As always, join with me, my two favorite co-hosts.
I don't think that's true. I think if you had a choice, you would kick me out.
In no particular order.
Long pause.
We have Steve Fraser.
That's me.
And Randy Kirk.
Hey, listeners.
So, as always, we start this out the way that we do. Why don't you guys see this movie?
Oh, me?
Yeah, go for it.
Well, because it came out in 1944 or whatever. Is that what it was? 44?
44.
I got
44.
that right. 44.
Yep.
4 is my favorite number, so maybe that... No, I don't know. Not to say that I don't like old movies, because I do. I don't know. I don't seek out these... The classic era. What's the phrasing for it?
The golden age.
Golden era.
Yeah,
golden
the
age.
golden age of cinema.
Golden age. Okay. The studio system era. You know, this is a Warner Brothers, was it?
This is
Warner Brothers. Yeah, Jack Warner.
Mm-hmm.
And was Cary Grant tied to Warner Brothers?
No, he was Columbia.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
it was actually a trade. Fun facts with Uncle Dude.
We can get into that. Sorry,
Yeah.
I just went right into questions because I have more questions than I do answers for everything.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, I don't know. I don't seek out a lot of this golden era unless it's, maybe my favorite guy, Clark Gable.
Sure.
You go for the guys you like, and then if I get around, not to say that I won't watch it, but I just don't seek it out. Like, if it's on, I'll check it out, I guess. Or if you say, hey, you would like this, then I will.
Right.
But, I feel like there's still movies from, newer or better.
That's how this damn podcast started out, is
Right.
hey.
Yeah, right. Oh, hey, did you see? No? Oh, you gotta.
Yeah.
So, that should have been the name of this. Did you see? No? You got it. It would have been not confusing with all those food podcasts that everyone has to sort through to get to ours. I'm sorry. Randy, you'd seen this or no?
Look out for shirts that say, did you see? No? You got it.
I had never seen this either, and for me, preconceived notions was that it was just a campy, cheesy, funny flick that involved Halloween somehow. I didn't know how, but it was on or around Halloween. And really, I have no reason why I shouldn't have seen this one. It always sounded like a lot of fun, and I found out later that it had Peter Lorre in it, whom I love. So, no reason. I just never got around to it.
I guess I didn't say a preconceived notion. You asked me why I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I had only known the title.
Sure.
I didn't know who was in it.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was about. I didn't know anything. I didn't know it was a comedy until Randy told me a week ago that it was a comedy.
And I couldn't even confirm that. I didn't know if it was just a spooky flick.
Which is kind of strange and unusual for the director, Frank Capra, not known for really the comedy genre. So, as I was saying, not really, Frank Capra, not really known for comedy, and so, it's one of those things that kind of sneaks up on everybody. They hear arsenic and old lace. It's not really, this is going to be a laugh, joy, riot.
I didn't know that it was spooky in any way. I didn't know it was about Halloween. I didn't know anything. Because you said, when we're doing pre-production, I guess, for these kinds of shows.
Oh, you're giving them a peek.
I'm going to give them a peek.
Under the table, to the table.
Right. So, we all kind of discuss films that we haven't seen before. And you said, hey, did you? And I said, no. And you guys said, you gotta.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a Halloween movie? And you were like, yeah.
And I actually, again, reasons why I never saw this movie, there are none, because I knew about it because Boris Karloff did the stage production.
Correct,
So I'm obviously a big, maybe not obvious to the listeners, but big Boris Karloff guy. So I had known about it, knew the premise. I didn't know about the Halloween aspect of it, but I knew about the arsenic, the involvement of the arsenic with the ants, and I knew that piece of it. But yeah, it's fun.
So, fun fact, you paused me before. Fun fact with Uncle Dude, like you had said, it's a stage production. It was actually a very popular stage production as it was filming. So the old ladies who show up, and let me give you their names, Josephine Hull and Jean Adair, they were actually in the stage productions and got lent to the movie. Poor Boris Karloff was such an it guy, didn't get lent to the production. And so,
because he still had to run the show on Broadway. No?
Right, well, so Warner's went, what if we give you Bogey? What if we give you Humphrey Bogart for the couple of weeks that we have to film with Boris, and the producer said, absolutely not. We're not giving you Karloff. And so Warner's went to Karloff, and spoiler alert, they go, can we kind of use your likeness? Because there's that tongue-in-cheek we'll talk about later, where they kind of hint at Karloff.
They say his name like 8 times.
Right. And so they're like, ooh, we might get into trouble. Is there any way we can use? And he goes, if I can't be in it, that's fine. Go ahead and use my shit.
Actually, I lied. Maybe they only say it once.
Yeah, Peter Lorre.
Well, no, the cop says it.
So I think you're twice then.
But it's not very often because they're like, you look like somebody, or, you made me look like a Hollywood somebody.
Before we keep getting deep in, I'm just going to open up the official beer.
I suppose I should do the same.
It's officially not a sponsor.
Ham's, the beer refreshing.
From
so far as they know.
Land of Sky Blue Waters.
It's good. Oh, it's so good.
If that bouncing bear wants to come over and join our sponsorship.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you, Ham's Beer.
Okay, so these poor ladies were like, oh, it's so nice that Boris, allowed us to go be in this, and Boris was like, I wanted to be in the damn movie,
And he would have played Johnny, the Scarface.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it was the man. I think it's called The Man Behind the Monsters, the documentary that came out about Boris Karloff about 2-3 years ago or so.
Ooh, I gotta watch that one.
They talk a little bit about this.
That's fantastic.
That was really the only way that I knew that. Fascinating though, and it's shitty that the Broadway producers would not release him from the contract.
They saw gold and they were like, absolutely not. So my preconceived.
Before you jump into preconceived, how many times have you seen this?
More than 25.
Damn,
get out of here.
This is a Halloween put on. Yeah. So October hits, I put Arsenic and Old Lace on, and in the background, whatever.
TCM people in your background.
TCM will play it ever so often. I like a good Ben Mankiewicz little jib jab, fun fact with Uncle Do, but it's Ben Mankiewicz this time, and so it's how I learned about a little bit more things. So I own it. It's on the DVR recording.
You own it. What is it? Blu-ray or?
Yeah, okay. It's like a bootleg because
Criterion did a version.
Yeah, and I don't have that one yet, but yeah,
I'm shocked. Well, just give it a few months. I'll probably do 4K.
So
by the time this comes out, it could be announced.
So, like I said, I was a Cary Grant guy. As I've said in the past, my dad was very forthcoming with the golden age, right? It was pretty much TCM and old movies.
Big Bob likes the golden era?
He very much so. So my dad raised by TV, and so anything that he picked up via TV, I was also raised by that same television.
Does he gravitate towards Westerns?
Very much so, yeah. My old man is a Western genre guy, and so I've seen every stinking Western imaginable, from spaghetti to Spanish, But, so...
We should do a series about that.
That's a great podcast title, by the way, From Spaghetti to Spanish. Somebody's going to steal that now. Wait,
Great.
You have to listen to us first in order to steal it.
Our next podcast is just nothing but spaghetti westerns in Spanish. TM, you can't trademark it. It's ours.
That's right. I'm on it.
So what I will say, though, is, for how many times you've watched it, it is fun from the very first minute. I will say that. That's an opinion of mine, is that I started having fun almost immediately.
Oh, absolutely.
It was just, it kind of kicks right in, and it sets the tone, and you know exactly what you're going to get from this movie.
Yeah, I really, to kind of combo off of that, I love how the first scene, they talk about the Bronx, and there's the baseball.
Which was actually kind of odd.
Right. It's off-putting. It throws you off, right?
And also, it's Halloween, but there's still a baseball game going on.
Right, so it must be, obviously, the World Series, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Maybe, yeah.
And then they cut to the second scene, which they put on the title card as in the United States proper, as to imply that the Bronx is so far gone.
It's one of those in-jokes.
Yeah, that's the kind of shit that makes me laugh.
Right.
I laughed more at that than I did the scenes themselves, I think.
Yeah.
Not the whole movie. like I said, I didn't know Cary Grant was in this. And it's so weird that you started it this way with the favorites, because as soon as I saw Cary Grant's name on the screen, I went, oh, that's why dude loves this. That's his favorite actor.
That's funny. That's so funny. It is, yeah, absolutely.
At least from back then.
Pretty much, yeah. It goes Cary Grant, Jimmy Stewart, John Wayne.
Right. Like, I would have guessed Stewart, but I knew Cary Grant for some reason was on your list.
Right.
You know, I talk about Gable all the time because he's my guy. Who's your Golden Era guy, Randy? Do you have a guy?
I guess if I had to pick one right now on the podcast, we're here.
Gun to your head, D.D. Mao.
I would have to go Boris Karloff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is he on your shirt right now?
He's on my shirt and my arm.
Well, he's always on your arm. But I just looked down. I was like, we've been talking about Karloff this whole time. You're literally wearing a Karloff T-shirt right now.
Yeah. So I guess I would say that because Vincent Price didn't really come up until the 50s.
Yeah.
Really. So yeah.
I kind of thought you were going to say Jimmy Stewart.
No, I mean I do love Jimmy Stewart, but I mean I got to go Karloff on this.
All right.
So my dad goes, hey, you remember Houseboat, which when we were kids we ate up.
That's a show?
Houseboat is a movie with Sophia Loren.
Okay.
And Cary Grant.
You said ooh like you love Loren.
I love Sophia.
So
Loren.
it's early Sophia Loren. She's the bombshell and whatever, and it's about
movie Italiana.
It's a fantastic little fun movie.
You
right?
like it ethnic.
And so my old man's like, oh, you like Cary Grant? We need to see this. It's spooky times. Let's watch this. And so I was like, oh, okay. Fell into it immediately. This signed me up yesterday and 3 times over. Like,
Cary Grant is really good. I thought because I'd seen
There's a statement.
I'd seen a few of his movies before this one, like Charade. I'd seen Charade, and I'm trying to think of the others that I've seen. I've probably seen only 1 or 2 more.
North by Northwest.
Yes, thank you.
Which I did not like.
I'm probably in the middle somewhere.
Don't utilize him Hitchcock has a problem with not utilizing.
It's like 3 hours long.
Right.
First of all, doesn't need to be.
But really, the point is that I'd never seen him do a comedic before, so I thought that he was a lot of fun. But I read that he didn't like his performance.
This is the least favorite because Capra, as we had stated at the beginning, not really a comedic guy, and so he just kept doing scenes and overs till he get the comedic timing right. And Cary Grant thought he was so overt and so animated with his humor that he didn't think it was natural enough and it wasn't good.
But whether it was Cary Grant or Capra, I'm not sure which one, if he gave the direction or if it was just instincts, but his reactions to finding out about
everything.
The body, about everything.
Everything.
I think that kind of set, I mean, of course, before that we had the Stooges, you got the Marx Brothers, but I think that sort of comedy set the bar for what comedy could be.
Can I change my answer from Clark Gable to Mo Howard?
Sure. Yeah. But yeah, I just thought that he was really, really good, and I was surprised
to read. What's your favorite Mo Howard movie?
But I was surprised to read that he didn't like his performance because I thought he killed it.
It's one of his least favorite films. Absolutely. But the entire cast was so good.
The 2 aunts, I know you named them off. I don't know their names.
Gene
Adair. I looked up Adair when I was watching it. I did the millennial thing where I started Googling, even though I'm on the cusp, and I identify as X.
Formerly Twitter.
No. Yes. I identify as that too. She was born in something like 1876 or something like.
Yeah.
It was nuts. I was like. She's more than 100 years older than me.
Fun fact, to call back to a previous episode of ours, our good friend Kristen.
Yeah, Kristen, sure.
She is the aunt in Harvey.
Oh, okay.
That's where you kind of... Like, she's the aunt. Like, you look at her and she's like, oh, okay.
She's an aunt.
Yeah, right. She plays it well.
Yeah.
So,
and she's more than 100 years older than me. Which I think is a new benchmark on this show.
Well, we were discussing beforehand, and I didn't realize it until today. This movie's nearly 80 years old, which is baffling to me.
Next year it's gonna
Yeah.
be 80.
So that blew my mind because, I had first started watching this movie 26 years ago. So, that time frame for me is like, boom.
Well, how often is it that you watch movies that are pre-1950?
At least 68% of the time.
Once a week?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
But it still surprised you that this one is almost 80 years old.
Yeah, well, because time is a weird soup.
It is.
So I still think of, the 2000s were last year,
The aughts, yeah.
Yeah, the aughts were, last year, and it's 20 fucking years ago. And so, 1944, I was watching fucking Band of Brothers in the Pacific last week. So,
Isn't it weird, not to go down this rabbit hole, but I love time. And we talk about it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you say that, the aughts, we met in 2001, you and I.
Yeah.
Randy, you and I met in 2002.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like 6-7 years ago.
Right.
Right? Now, and that was 2002. 1992 feels like 100 years ago. I don't understand why 20 years ago feels like 10 and 30 years ago feels like 50.
It does feel like a different life. From when you're a kid, 1992 to 2002, it's like, oh yeah, that was me. I was there, but it's a different time.
I follow, retro shit because that's what I do. And I was going over 1992 Batman Returns.
The dinosaur Dracula shit.
Oh, yeah, man. Oh, sign me up yesterday. But I was also watching this YouTube channel called Yesterworld. Shout out to Yesterworld. It's fantastic. It's about pop culture and Disney and so on and so forth, and Disney's failures and so on and so forth. And I remember seeing Dick Tracy at the drive-in theater.
Wow.
And they talk about Dick Tracy being such a box office bomb. I haven't seen it since the drive-in theater.
No shit.
So I've been vacillating whether or not, because it's on streaming right now, I'd been vacillating whether or not I wanted to watch it again because I'll get a wild hair up my ass and when was the last time I watched this?
Pacino is fun as hell in that movie.
And so I'm like, maybe I'll watch Dick Tracy again. And it's one of those things, like I said, time is so weird that I was like, I can put into what summer it was. It was a McDonald's thing.
Most of our lives can be benchmarked by McDonald's toys.
Oh, fuck yeah.
And
what was the McDonald's thing for Dick Tracy? Do you remember?
It was the cups. It had the Dick Tracy logo, and then there was the toys, and I think it was cars, just like they did with Batman Returns, and I think that's why I put...
Got it.
McDonald's doesn't do the cups as much anymore, if at all.
They were big on the cups.
And then you get the special lid for 39 cents.
There was also a Frisbee.
Yes.
All right. We should rate it back.
Yeah, rate it back in.
Just one more point about Dick Tracy, because they must have marketed that very, very well. Because the toys, I remember those being a big thing. Because when I got the Dick Tracy figures, I was on the fence about the movie. It was a fine movie. I watched it, but the toys, I was so excited to get those. They
marketed the hell out of that fucking movie. Like there was cards, there was sticker books, there was this whole thing, wax packs with gum that tasted like ass, and
tasted so bad.
Did you see my restraint there in the ass joke? Did you see it?
I did. The sky was the limit with how they marketed this movie. They were expecting it to be a Batman level sort of hit, and it fizzled hard.
Sure. Taking it back to the movie that we're here to discuss.
Sorry.
Well, but we can segue also using time as a weird thing. This movie came out in 1944, which means that it was like World War II was still happening.
Mm-hmm. Right. So this was this was his last, Frank Capra's last theatrical release before he went to start doing. He joined up.
People did that?
Yeah.
As adults?
So Pearl Harbor happened, and he said, how can I be of service to my country? Joined up, and he made war films throughout the whole war. And so this was one of his theatrical releases. Like it was
after that?
Mm-hmm.
And this was his last one before It's a Wonderful Life. Right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Like theatrical release,
right.
Yeah.
Also interesting, in 1944, I remember thinking when I was watching the movie and the ants were going around the house and doing their auntie things, and I thought, this is like 10 years before television is invented.
Right.
So, like, not only do they not have a TV because it doesn't exist.
Right.
Like, I'm like, what do they do for fun? What do you do all day as an ant in 1944?
Well, they kill people, of course.
And you listen to FDR on the old wireless.
Well, sure you do. So I thought, like, oh, the radio, like, is king in this era. I was trying to put myself in the mindset of the times.
A little bit of a sidetrack here, but I thought a movie that played to that really well was A Christmas Story, because Ralphie gets his little decoder ring and he has to rush home to listen to Little Orphan Annie on the radio. And we can't relate to that.
Not at all.
Because we grew up in the age of television.
Not at all.
But it must have been just such a huge thing to sit in front of the radio just to listen to it for, an hour, 30 minutes, however long these radio shows were.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we listen to podcasts now, and we listen to audiobooks, and so...
But I sure as hell don't rush to them.
At this point in time, we see Jimmy Stewart as the everyman. He's the apple pie American boy. He is Jimmy Stewart. He's the everyman. Cary Grant is the opposite of that. He is the American cad, right? He's the American playboy. His girl Friday, he was divorced, and he was the one, pinpricking the ex-wife in the Philadelphia Story. Same situation. American cad. He was pinpricking Katharine Hepburn. And, like, he was the divorced or the formerly fiancé of Katharine Hepburn. So they kind of shoehorned him in this American cad. He was the American bachelor. He was that playboy sort of thing during this time.
I mean, he was the George Clooney of the day.
Very much so.
Leo DiCaprio?
Yeah.
Leo.
Maybe?
Sure.
So technical side of things, Warner Brothers touted that this was one of their largest sets at the time, which was unheard of because there's rationing going on, and so you're building this giant set while rationing is going on.
I did read that they built every room in the house.
Yeah.
Even though you don't see every room in the house, but they built every room.
That's
which doesn't make
crazy.
sense. Yeah.
So the whole house, every room in the house, it was all on a stage. Even the cemetery. And across the way from the judge's house. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It is a big set. Yeah.
But, like, when you look at it through the lens of a current movie...
Right.
Like, they don't even make sets. I mean, I guess there are backlots and stuff, but you don't just, like, build a set.
We shot this movie on a green room.
Right,
like,
exactly.
Right.
Like, that new Sphere thing in Las Vegas could just be a giant green screen.
Christ,
but
I could go on a diatribe about that. Holy fuck.
Let's don't.
And just 16 years later, Psycho came out. You've got the Psycho house and the Bates Motel. And Psycho, they just built the exterior. They didn't build the interior. Like, why would you do that? Like they did for Arsenic on Old Lace. Why would you do that?
Well, coming back, it was the boomer period, excess. The studio system was kind of floundering almost then. There was less, you were getting everybody, nobody knew whether or not everybody was going back into the theater yet. They wanted to go back into the theater, but we're still testing the waters and so on and so forth. So the studio's losing their shirts.
Is that the year they gave out, like, wooden Oscars or some shit? Like,
I can't remember.
I don't remember the year either, but it would make sense.
Yeah.
Because, like, gold was,
right,
you couldn't do gold.
I don't even...
We're in wartime.
I think they did blackout. They didn't even do the large searchlights because of blacklights, blackouts, and so on and so forth.
The only technical thing that I had was that one of you might have this also, but it was written by Julius and Philip Epstein, who also co-wrote Casablanca.
I did not have that in any of my notes.
Yeah, but I was kind of surprised to find that out.
I rewatched Casablanca recently. I don't think you and I talked about this, and I liked it much more than I did when I was a young man.
Sure.
I don't know why. It definitely. I feel like it holds up better than I remember.
Yeah, you appreciate it for different nuances.
Yeah.
You're old, you're Rick's age, and...
Fuck you!
No, I'm not saying that, I'm not saying that to be whatever. It's you have a different point of view because, when you're younger, you didn't know that sort of situation, right? Like, you didn't know that relationship. And
Sure.
so you're older.
Some of us still don't.
You do notice things as you get older.
You do.
Strangers in the night, ships passing by.
Well, that I know.
I haven't seen Casablanca since I was like 20. And so I would probably appreciate it a lot more now.
Yeah, it's probably also been that long since I had watched it.
Yeah.
Since you were 20.
I'm due for a rewatch.
Yeah, I don't really have anything technical on here other than, I wrote a bunch of notes about like dialogue that I liked and,
hell yeah.
and
I got a few of
screenplay
those.
kinds of things.
Screenplay, you got some technical stuff?
It's really not, I don't know if it's more just me bitching about things. And I don't know if at some point, if we just talk about things that we liked or disliked about the movie, I don't know if they really have to fall into a category. But I'll just say it right now. The midpoint of this movie is the point when the audience now has a full grasp of everything that's going on. And all of the characters have no idea what's going on. And therefore, that creates dramatic irony, which I fucking hate. So, I got real mad halfway through this movie.
Sure.
Okay.
Because it was so frustrating that we were just waiting for everyone to like learn what the other people were talking about or doing or whatever. And like, how many times did they allude, like, Cary Grant can, like, oh, you can't say that there's bodies in the basement or whatever. I love the fact they kept saying window seat. Like, the phrase window seat is uttered like a million times. I loved it. So it's not like I hated the movie, but I hate dramatic irony. Like, it just became an episode of Three's Company, and it drove me nuts. Not to say that I don't like Three's Company, because it's a very enjoyable show.
Yeah.
But every episode was predicated on a misunderstanding where they had to, like, all suddenly learn at the end, oh, I see what was going on here the whole time. Meanwhile, you're at home going, ooh, I hope they don't find out what XYZ. And I'm like, can we just get to the point, please? Like, I kept waiting for people to find out so that there could be consequences.
Yeah.
Instead of setup and more setup, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know what you mean. That is, I didn't write it down, but one mental note that I took was just kind of how chaotic it was. Not that I didn't enjoy it, because it was a whole lot of fun, but the chaos really never stopped.
The chaos got crescendoed, right? And so you get to the end, not the end, but, the 80% mark, I guess. And, like, the part where, like, every character that we know is now in the living room.
Yeah.
And they're all telling their stories. And they're literally so unbelievable that they actually meld really well together. Mm-hmm. Like, it's so weird how you can have the most ridiculous set of 8 circumstances, and because they're so unbelievable, nobody believes anybody, but yet there's this underlying current of the mental hospital or asylum.
Yeah.
And it's like...
Yeah, and so... Spoiler alert, everybody that's, listening to this, hopefully you've watched it or,
if not, you've had 80 years.
But at the end there, where Cary Grant, where he has to pretend, they're finding out about the 13 bodies, they're going to go downstairs. And so he feigns that he's going crazy. He starts doing the trumpet and charging up the stairs, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, they're like, oh, I don't know who to believe at this point.
Yeah.
And so they kind of give up.
It became an I'm Spartacus kind of situation, right?
Yes.
Right.
And that actually pissed me off. Because as Cary Grant is fucking delightful in this movie.
Yes.
And he is trying so hard to prove that everybody else is crazy, that he goes crazy himself, right?
Yeah.
And which is the point.
Right.
And they're setting it up so beautifully with him having to sign the papers. And I'm telling you, the greatest disappointment of my entire life is Cary Grant not getting locked away as being crazy at the end of this movie.
Yeah, but we have to have a good ending, because Mortimer is going to get married, and so he got married, and so he has to have this wonderful life away from all of this craziness.
I get it that you have to have the happy ending, but they've spent so much time setting up the turn of him, and maybe it was just like so obvious that it's almost a swerve to go back and have a happy ending.
Yeah.
But I like me, I just love tragedy and negative. So I'm like, this is going to be perfect because everyone else is going to get away with it, and Cary Grant is the one that's going to go down.
And they curtain jerk.
And it was the opposite. I also wrote down how much I loved that the Dr. Einstein got away with it.
Yeah.
Again, because I thought this is perfect. Like, he legit, cons his way out of the room.
Early Peter Lorre. Like, he isn't leaning into his Peter Lorre-ness just yet.
Not quite. Yeah.
Right. So he's testing the water.
But he's getting there.
Oh, and it's so good. I had watched that picture, and so it was kind of in my mind, and it was so good. It was so good.
Well, a lot of people probably remember his likeness from Looney Tunes,
right?
But I had made a note about Peter Lorre and about just how big of a deal he was even at this point.
Yeah,
because already he was a Hitchcock guy,
right?
And then he had done M, which
right.
Huge deal. But he had done with Hitchcock, The Man Who Knew Too Much. He had done The Maltese Falcon. He'd done Casablanca. These are movies that he had done pre-Arsenic and Old Lace, which I thought was great. But then he became the Peter Lorre that you're talking about, which is what we think of.
Right. That character that we see from Looney Tunes.
But you were talking about how he gets away with it, and I did just want to bring up one quote, because at the end, he's, trying to slink away, trying to get out the door.
Right.
And one of the aunts, I forget which one it is, but she says, "Oh, were you leaving, Doctor?" And he goes, "Yes, please." What a great line.
Yeah.
He's just he's obviously just as guilty as anybody. He's just trying to get the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
And I loved that he got away.
Yeah.
And I was so excited. And to me, that was the beginning of the dominoes falling, where everyone was going to get away except Cary Grant.
Sure.
And that didn't happen.
So, to go back and
I'm so angry.
I like that, though.
This film was shot in 1941, but released in 44.
Okay.
So I just wanted to.
I guess that makes a difference.
Yeah.
So I guess it was filmed pre-Casablanca, but
pre-Casablanca, it was like the same time of Pearl Harbor, and so that's where the disconnect. Like when Frank Capra was shooting in England or whatever, he was hearing soldiers yell "charge" like Teddy did.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, that's funny." Well, the Warner Brothers had released it to the soldiers 2 years before it was actually released to the public. And so, could you imagine coming home from war and being like, "Oh, it was a crazy thing, but we also saw this great film called Arsenic." What do you mean you never saw this? Going that much more crazy because this film you saw before anybody else.
Right.
For almost 2 years, and going, "Wait, didn't that movie already came out? Because I saw that on my furlough time."
Right.
Yeah, you bring up Teddy. Even funnier to me than the charge thing was him just greeting everybody and just saying, "Bully, bully."
Bully, yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually thought to myself, I need to start incorporating bully into my...
Bully, bully.
Another one of his Teddy Roosevelt's like, "Capital." Oh, that's Capital.
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah.
I'm a big fan of Capital.
Capital's good.
There's a lot of good things. Now, I did think it was very weird. Like, that whole thing is, that character is weird.
It's one of my favorite interactions is that the first time Bruce, Mortimer talks to Teddy Roosevelt? We've got like a couple now Napoleons. We don't have that many. And
almost like the asylum is trying to cast a movie.
Right. Wait, can you? You can't? Oh, okay. Like, how absurd! Like the absurdity of all of that.
Like the absurdity is what's charming about this movie.
Absolutely.
And going in blind, I had no idea what it was about.
Sure.
Like, I literally had zero idea.
Mm-hmm.
I was disappointed to find out that there wasn't really no old lace other than their like black funeral outfits, and then
it's the thing that covered the window seat.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. But the ants, like, when they reveal that there's, what was the line? The others, right? Because you learn about the one, you're like, holy shit. And then they go, the others, and you're like, Oh, shit.
Yeah.
The opening of the cupboard and all of the hats when they go to put the hat
Yes.
away.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, the fact that Cary Grant took the whatever the deceased guy's, his name, the hat.
Yeah.
I thought that was good.
One of my favorite noises of frustration will always be the Cary Grant every time, because it's a catch thing for him. He does the frustration into everything, and
I'm telling you,
it gets me every time.
Comedic Cary Grant is great. I really like, and I'm so shocked that he didn't like it.
You love that? I have a whole list for you.
Okay. I'm in.
Hey, did you see? No. Hey, you gotta.
That's not what this podcast is based on. I didn't see that.
I have a question. What's the deal with the Niagara Falls? Like, okay, so the Stooges had the whole thing about Niagara Falls. Like, Niagara Falls became a stereotypical honeymoon destination.
Correct.
And I don't know where or why or how.
It's the whole lore and legend of it all. You go and
That's
kiss
what I'm
by
saying.
the
I don't
falls,
understand.
The Maid of the Mist, all of that business.
The Maid of the Mist was around in the 40s?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
They used to paddle
Oh,
boats.
you're making a rowing motion.
Yeah,
for those
they used
not
to,
watching on
they
video,
used to take
which
boats
is everybody.
Yeah, I'm making rowing motions with my arms in a perpendicular.
He's making his own mist.
It was one of those things like Hawaii wasn't a state yet, right? So
Right.
you don't go travel to the pineapple groves of Hawaii. Like New York and the Horseshoe Falls were the pure romantic destination because who the fuck knows?
People were simple back then.
Right.
Oh, what I wouldn't give. I love the outfits, too.
Automobiles could not go more than 100 miles on a tank of gas, for fuck's sake, you know? Like,
There at this point, there weren't even interstates.
right.
Right, I was going to say they're in Brooklyn. You know, how far of a drive is that to Niagara Falls?
They may take the train. You never know, right?
They probably
could.
would take the train.
They take the train.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to take a train in 1944 or 41.
The rails were how you traveled. Okay, so
Why were fireplaces so big in the 1940s?
Because
They're fucking huge.
because you got to remember in the 1940s that house was probably there for 100 years before that.
And so you cooked and heated and everything right there.
Yeah,
on
so the
hearth.
kitchen wasn't really the kitchen just yet.
Sure. No
And so-
HVAC.
No.
I just like all the fireplaces were like taller than a man,
Yeah.
and I don't like. It's just striking to me.
It probably heated the house because natural
Yeah.
gas was just barely there, you know? Like, they obviously didn't have electric because they were using candlelight. Everything was so dim.
Right. Well,
great
no, they
gas
did have a
company
light. They
name.
have a light switch in the movie.
Oh, do they? Okay.
Yeah, because there's the whole
Mea
thing with the
culpa.
turn on the lights.
It's a good gas company name, though.
Right.
Barely there gas.
That's not what he was saying last week.
No.
Oh, it was
hair.
It was there. It was everywhere.
Hot hair. Nobody likes that.
I guess we can really. I mean, we've kind of been talking about acting. Is there any other acting things that you'd like to bring up?
I mean, Raymond Massey.
He's so tall.
Right.
He's like 6'3" or something.
He does the imposing thing. He's not quite Boris Karloff, but he gets there, right? Like, he has his own imposing thing.
Is he related to Mike Massey, the pool guy?
I don't think so.
Okay. That trick shot guy. If you've never heard of Mike Massey, look him up.
Aside from getting lambasted for being so over the top, everybody in this cast was near perfection, and
Yeah.
so there's like even so the taxi cab driver, funny enough, was a taxi driver in The Bishop's Wife, and so. Once again, a Cary Grant movie and a Cary Grant sort of situation,
Okay.
and he's reprising that role where he's that hey, wait a minute, sort of situation, and there's a whole-
Typecast.
Yeah,
Sure.
I wrote down that I was very happy that particular running gag did not stop.
yeah,
Because typically movies tend to forget that they've got a joke going.
That's important, yeah, because when Teddy runs up the stairs saying charge and slams the door and with the clock and they gotta move the arm back up, that stopped, right?
They did do it at the end.
They did it at the end.
yeah, but through all of the commotion, they didn't do it as much.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you would have had to move everybody and so
Right.
on and so forth. And,
But yeah, I mean, yeah, running gag has
Yeah.
to run. Yeah.
Right, you can't just stop. Now, they did it at the end to remind you that, oh yeah, we didn't forget about this, even
Yeah.
though they did.
yeah.
Even though,
So,
but
now the cab driver, I didn't look up in my inflation calculator that I love so much, but he said it was like $22 or something at the end, which has got to be over $100 in today's money.
More than that, yeah. Because he had just sat
there
ran it.
for the duration of the movie, right?
Yeah.
And I love the fact that he kept saying something like "call a cab," and then at one point the cab driver actually calls a cab.
Right.
that was
Or-
so funny.
So, wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
yeah.
Yes.
And it's a different kind of funny though than let's say Adam Sandler funny.
Right.
Like it just that golden era funny is different.
Well, because he's now entwined in the craziness of the situation, right? Oh, he's, Mortimer's all over the place, and so you're all over the place because this guy's all over the place, and so, like,
Yes.
it's smart. It really is a smarter, like, oh, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's a clever, cute style of comedy.
And like I said, you see him again if you watch The Bishop's Wife, which is one of my favorite Christmases. That's in my top 10s.
Never saw it.
I know.
A, because it's golden era. B, because it's Christmas.
Right.
And I have an aversion to both of those things.
Exactly.
What was the Whitney Houston one that came out?
Don't even
That's
talk
it's a remake though.
Yes,
yeah, okay,
The Preacher's Wife.
Preachers. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Oh, I
'cause
didn't realize that was a remake.
Tiff will go. She'll watch that every 2 Christmases or so.
Denzel plays the Cary Grant role.
So it is though. Okay.
Denzel's a better actor than Cary Grant.
Absolutely not.
Oh.
Get the fuck out of my house. Get the fuck out of my house.
That's funny.
Denzel plays Denzel. Cary Grant does not play Cary Grant every time.
Did you see Fences?
I did. It's Cary Grant. It's Denzel playing Denzel.
That was perfect.
It was. The only other note that I had was a quote, I guess, that I just really, really loved, and I'm sure do you also love for different reasons. When the ants are discussing the dead body in the window seat, and I forget the gentleman's name, but it was their gentleman, not the Massey gentleman, Johnny Scarface.
Spinazzo?
Yeah.
And the, the one man says he's very nice looking, seeing as he's a Mexican. I was like, I guess you could say that in 1944. I don't think that line would pass today.
No, absolutely not.
No.
Although it's delightful, and I don't see why people choose to get offended over things like that, because it's funny.
It's funny and like, oh, Grandma's a racist.
Right.
It's sort of funny,
Right.
but not in a, oh, yeah.
Right,
That's,
back then it was funny because it's true. Now it's funny because it's...
no, the hatred is still the same hatred.
Oh, you're right.
Just a different date on it.
You're right.
All right.
But yeah, the one quote that I had, just to kind of quote, the only other note that I had was that Cary Grant says, I'm not a Brewster, I'm the son of a sea cook.
Yeah.
I did read a little bit of trivia about that, and it was supposed to be, I'm not a Brewster, I'm a bastard.
Yeah.
Right? Is that true?
The Hays Code, you're not allowed to say
Can't
bastard.
say bastard.
But I actually like sea cook better. I think that's funnier.
Right. It flows, and his delivery of "I'm a son of a sea cook" is
That's
it's
funnier
poetic.
than,
Yeah.
it's much funnier than I'm a bastard.
Yeah.
I'm a son of a sea cook. That's great, yeah.
Yeah, because yes, I agree with you.
The Hays Code's fingers. We can do another whole hour about the Hays Code's fingers in this fucking movie. It would last forever because you couldn't. They wanted to list off all of the ingredients in the death cocktail, and they're
Yeah.
like, no, let's only do the 1 or 2, please. Don't give the full because people are
Recipe,
going to
because
try
some
to
people make it.
poison, and then the whole. Oh, he
But even
can't
still,
wait.
Are you telling me that people don't hear a little bit of arsenic, a little bit of
I mean,
rat
arsenic's
poison,
going to kill you anyway.
and
Yeah,
just a pinch of cyanide? Like,
right, it's going to kill you regardless.
Right. People, yeah, come on.
Okay, I was also very upset that nobody died in this movie. Like, everyone that was dead in this movie was already dead.
Sure.
Nobody died during the course of the movie, which...
The old man looking to come in to rent the room.
Yes.
I really did. I thought that he was going to die eventually. It was funny. Like he prevented his death.
It was too much.
But he never died.
Right.
Yeah, I thought that
The
eventually he was
whole
going to come.
gag with the oh, don't drink the poison one.
Yeah.
Like, and they were hoping Johnny was going to drink the poison one.
Right.
And it was just this long, convoluted joke that they wanted to rib everybody in, and like, oh, you know.
Peter
you know what that
Lorre.
is.
So the ants take away the glasses, the wine glasses, and then Brewster, Cary Grant, comes and he takes away the bottle of wine. And the way Peter Lorre looks at the bottle of wine as it goes away,
Like, I was very frustrated at that particular... Like, everyone took the drink to their lips and then put it down.
Yeah.
And it was just stupid.
It's a
Happened
different
one too
kind
many
of
times,
comedy.
yeah.
It's a
Right.
different kind of comedic timing, and yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's just... honestly, I don't think it's for me. Like, I'm not saying that there aren't things about this movie that I didn't like.
Right.
I definitely thought that it was charming and, fun.
So there goes that question I was going to ask. Is this in your Halloween rotation?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I will probably never watch this movie ever again.
okay. Where do you rank it?
I gave it a straight 5 down the middle.
Okay.
Which, I mean, not saying it's bad.
Right.
Not saying it's great. Mm-hmm. I definitely think there's things about it that, were 7 quality. Mm-hmm. But then, like, the ending to me, it didn't feel like there was a conclusion to anything.
Sure.
Like, it was just so, like, it crescendoed to such this chaotic state. And then just kind of, like...
Fizzled.
Right. It was like our friend Jim Cornette would say, it was like a plate full of piss. So, I don't know, like, it was all there, and it really had the makings for, like, just some bizarre, bonkers kind of twists and turns, and then everything just kind of fizzled for me. And I don't know. I was like, oh, that's it? Mm-hmm. And that's how I left the movie, was feeling that's it.
Yeah, they picked it up at the end. I do like your concept about Cary Grant being taken away.
That was like I
that
thought
would have been great. Yeah,
like halfway through the movie when he starts becoming insane with disbelief of the absurdity of the ants killing people and everything. Like I went, oh, I see where this is going. I'm excited for this.
Yeah.
Let's see the turn. And then they built it up so perfectly, and then didn't do it. Mm-hmm. And so I really came out of it just disappointed.
Because it was like you throw a pen.
The last 5 minutes picked it back up for me.
Yeah.
Because I felt a little bit of a dip.
Yeah.
Right before that last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And
are you sure about that 5 minutes?
And once it got there, I'm like, okay, now I'm back in a little bit because it reignites the charm and.
And what was the low point for you? Like what was happening or not happening that?
I don't know. I feel like it was his last grasp at trying to kind of keep it all together. Sure. And it was like, okay, I just kind of. It was one grasp too much.
Okay.
For me, where I was like, okay, I'm a little bit, maybe it was just one time too many, went to the well, or I'm oversaturated, or whatever. And
that's exactly the reason that I thought they were going to pay off with him being the one that gets taken away.
Well, and it now that you say that, now that he acted crazy, he's going up saying charge, going up the stairs, and Teddy comes out of the room and he does like he's crazy kind of thing with his finger.
Right.
It was perfect, and that's what should have happened.
That's what should have happened.
Yeah.
I agree.
So, Rand, where do you rank this, and is this in your future Halloween rotations?
I'll definitely watch it again.
Yeah.
So I did put that. I put it at a 6.5.
Okay.
Because not great, but also not bad enough to where I won't watch it again. So 6.5. Maybe 2 Halloweens from now, I'll give it a go.
Okay.
And obviously you watch this every year.
Every Halloween. It's a 7.5. It's not my favorite Cary Grant comedic, but I think it's the sum of all of its parts for me. It's everybody. It's Peter Lorre. It's Raymond Massey. It's the ants. It's the sum of all of its parts that does it for me. But yeah, it's a 7.5 for me.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
so
pretty high.
This section is our Halloween spooktacular.
There's a joke that's never been made before.
You know me. So join us again next week, actually, we're doing weekly because...
Yeah, we got a high turnaround here.
Right, because of the Halloween thing. So join us next time. Steve would kick me in the ass if I don't remind you of our socials. Twitter, or X, my bad.
Yeah, it's X.
X. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We're a little less on our tiki-taki.
The X is To The Table Show,
Yeah.
I believe. Mm-hmm. And Instagram is what?
_the_table_podcast.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
And so join us next time in our spooky Halloween themes movies. And what's next time?
I'm gonna be bringing another Adam Sandler film your way.
Jesus Christ, we're going back to that well?
Yes, and it's the well that you don't like. So here we go. It's Adam Sandler, Hubie Halloween.
Maybe you'll be surprised.
Maybe I won't.
Podcast loves the Sandman.
Nothing surprises me anymore.
Thank you guys
See you
for
next week.
indulging in my golden era.
Nighty
Thanks,
night.
everybody.
So join us next time in our spooky Halloween themes movies. And what's next time?
I'm gonna be bringing another Adam Sandler film your way.
Jesus Christ, we're going back to that well?
Yes, and it's the well that you don't like. So here we go. It's Adam Sandler, Hubie Halloween.
Maybe you'll be surprised.
Maybe I won't.
Podcast loves the Sandman.
Nothing surprises me anymore.
Thank you guys
See you
for
next week.
indulging in my golden era.
Nighty night.
Everybody.